Get promos and discounts from Filipino startups. Check out our partners at the description. Miha Matlievski is the fail coach. Miha has turned extreme lows, including bankruptcy, into a platform for success and learning. Now in the Philippines, he's passionate about sharing his journey and strategies with Filipino entrepreneurs aiming for global success. Hello, Miha. How are you?
Hey, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you here in the Startup Podcast PH. Here we usually interview Filipino startup founders, and you actually want to help Filipino entrepreneurs in the country and also for them to become global. But let's start with your story. This is a very interesting story. So you've actually experienced extreme lows and bankruptcy. So how was it? How was this story?
Well, so I was a startup founder as well. Coming from entrepreneurial and startup background, the story, well, let's try to make it short. I dropped out of high school when I was 17 years old. So I didn't even come close to university. I know how important education is in the Philippines. I'm not a representation of that. And I started my entrepreneurial journey at that time in my father's company. But unfortunately, a few years later, my father was diagnosed with cancer and died very quickly. And I took over the company, started growing it, started adding more companies into the mix. Well, that was around 2005, 2006, 7. Those were some pretty good years in terms of macroeconomics.
Which country? Sorry, which?
Slovenia.
Slovenia,
And just European Union,
Yeah,
yes.
EU.
So if you can relate to what was happening in the last few years, globally, Bitcoin going up, shares going up, real estate going up. So that was similar back in those days. Everything was just going up. So I was riding that wave of good macroeconomics, thinking that I'm very genius entrepreneur, but in
Everyone's a
reality,
genius when it's
yeah, yeah, it's not that difficult to not do well when the macroeconomic
Yeah.
situation is good. And then fast forward to 2008 in the US and then 2009 in Europe, the financial crisis. Real estate prices dropped significantly. One of my companies was in a big real estate project, something similar to what you have here with the SMs and Bayala. So it was a shopping center, apartments on top.
So this is like a developer company in Slovenia? Okay, I see.
I was the investor in that project, and then of course not my own money, but also banks' money. Prices dropped. The whole project would not be profitable. And then one morning, it was Monday, December 7th at around 9 a.m. The lady from the bank called me, said, "We are pulling out of this project." And because all my other businesses were co-signing, I was personally guaranteeing and co-signing for all of that. They started pulling money from everywhere. And literally in about 24 hours, they took everything from all of my companies, from me personally. So I calculated that into US dollars so that it's a bit easier. It was roughly 20 million US dollars that I lost in just a single 24-hour time span. And then the usual depression, anxiety.
How old were you during this time? Like during the low part?
Well, it's definitely not easy once it hits you. So it didn't hit me right away. It was not like, oh, now everything fall apart. Because I was that cocky entrepreneur. I was like, I can figure it out. I can make it. Maybe I can do some deal here, deal there. Maybe I can pull some strings. Maybe I can go to a different bank. So I didn't just give up right away. It took me a few weeks of fighting, but the battle was just too big. The project was too big. The whole
Yeah.
macroeconomic situation scattered. Everybody was in distress, so there was no chance for me to pull off. Now, then, when the realization hits you, at least for me, I went into depression, into anxiety, thinking, rethinking. I can still remember how I would wake up and I would just go into the living room, lay on the sofa, curled up, like in that baby fetus position. I would put something on the TV, not really watching, just being in my thoughts, and just, yeah, going back through and at that time I wasn't looking at it from a perspective of, oh, what can I learn, how can I
Mm.
grow, and something like that. I was more like the government, the crisis, the US, the banks. Why did I need this? What? Why are you doing this to me? And stuff like that. So I was more looking at the outside factors instead of, how I would do it
Mm.
nowadays. And that made the whole thing even more terrible, because
Mm.
you are blaming everybody, everything, and then at some point, I wasn't looking at that as a failure. I started looking at myself as a failure.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so life was great so far. This is it. I used all the points, and now it's darkness. It's this. It's almost like, you are on this side of the tunnel, and then it's dark tunnel, and you don't see any light. You don't see any way of you coming to the other side. And even if there is some light, you think it's a train coming to hit you. So yeah, it was very dark thoughts, dark emotions. And yeah, I wasn't looking at that as okay, something happened, this too shall pass, the proverb. I wasn't looking at it that way. I was looking at it like, yeah, that's it. My life ruined. That was it. I used up all the good fun times. I had a good time. And now, until I die, is it even worth living? And then you start going down that route. So I had quite a few suicidal attempts. Once I came very, very close, probably just a few seconds away from actually jumping from a balcony. Uh, so yeah, very dark energy.
Very dark indeed. Yeah, this is a very really low part of life, right? But actually, for me, I think many Filipinos can actually relate to this kind of like roller coaster ride. I mean, many startup founders, like, they feel very invigorated by, because they can get these investors, they can build this company, and then suddenly, like, but some crisis happens. They now they even call it like a funding winter, because it's a bit hard to find some funding, some investors now. So then they go down, and it all becomes dark. Like, personally, I mean, like, their whole life. But I first want to go back, like, when you said you didn't enter university, right? So how was it? How was the feeling? Because many Filipinos as well, like, they choose, or actually a few, some or a few. Actually, I'm not that sure about the statistics, but some of them actually skip schooling because they feel they're very confident that they think that, oh, I can be an entrepreneur. I can be rich. I can start this business. I can build this business. So how was it? How was it during that? During
Oh, I mean, I wasn't thinking too much back
Oh.
then. So I so I'm the only child, and I had both my parents and grandparents all just looking after me. I was living in a very huge, very privileged bubble, very similar to new generations nowadays in the West, how they're, taken care of. And I was growing up in ex-Yugoslavia, which was a communist
Mhm.
country. But because my parents and grandparents were a bit better off than the majority. They would go to Italy, to Austria, and I would be the only kid with Levi's jeans, with Timberland shoes, with stuff like that. My father bought me personal computers, Sinclair Spectrum, when I was 4 years old. That was in 1982. So yeah, I was born in 1978. So 1982, he bought me my first computer to a 4-year-old kid way back then. So I lived a very, very privileged life.
Mm.
And I never, like there was never any obligation or anything on me. And when I failed school, and it wasn't because I was stupid, it was just a rebel in me, like that rebel without a cause. And the professor lady for the Italian language and me, we didn't get very along. I still speak fairly well Italian, so it wasn't my knowledge, but she was like, I'll show you. And then I was like, oh no, I will show you. I can skip more classes than you can come up with
Mm.
exams. And yeah, that didn't end up well. And so she was the only professor of Italian language, which was mandatory at my school at that time. And so I knew if I go back and repeat a year, I'll get her again. We'll have the same fight again. And then because my father had a small business, and he was like, well, just come work in the company, because he envisioned me taking over anyway.
Mm.
And he wasn't that big on education is important. And so, yeah, I was just like, oh, that's easy. And I just took the easy way. So it wasn't planned. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't considering
So
implications or
yeah.
anything. It was just like I was 17. Like my mind was chasing girls around, partying, waiting to
Oh.
make driver license at 18, and then go out party with my friends. That was my
Yeah.
life. So and again, there was zero obligation on this earth for me at that time. Like all my bills paid by parents,
Mm.
living at home. They were then paying for my apartment in the capital city in Ljubljana. Like I had the most privileged,
Mm.
spoiled brat life that you can imagine.
But did you really think like it was easy? Did you really think? I mean, during that time, did you really think it was easy? And did you think like did you have like a vision, like an imagination, maybe that you'll be like a very grand CEO, a very grand?
No,
No,
no, no. I wasn't thinking anything.
okay,
Like
okay.
all my life, I was told by
Hmm.
everybody in my family how amazing I am.
Oh,
Almost that I'm the next
okay.
reincarnation of Buddha and Jesus combined. Like I can do no wrong.
Mm,
I'm the most amazing, and everything. And so all of those things were just normal to me. Me doing good in the business world, that didn't feel anything exceptional
mm,
because it was just normal. I am
mm,
that great. And so then the reality,
yeah.
when the macroeconomics changed, that hit me really hard.
Mm, mm,
And it was really hard for me to come to the point. It took me many, many months
mm,
to go from everybody else is to be
mm,
blamed
mm.
to, oh, it was really me
Oh.
who fucked it up.
Mm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure many Filipinos can relate. I actually have heard many stories of Filipinos who actually also have that kind of background and then felt that, I mean, pretty much have this, although your story might be a bit more, like a bit more grand, a bit more, but some Filipinos also like they become too confident, they become too arrogant, and then it hits them. It hits them. So
Yeah.
going to the dark part of your life. So yeah, how was it, and how did you turn it around?
Well, like I said, it was very dark, very like I was just without any energy, without any life in me, without anything to grasp onto. Because when you see nothing but darkness, there's nothing that really gets you out of bed. And then, of course, um, when the bank took the money, they took all the liquidity from all
Yeah.
my companies. And so my other companies, who were actually really good companies, still doing really good, suddenly bank accounts empty.
Mm-mm.
And we weren't able to purchase supplies. We weren't able to pay employees. I wasn't able to pay tax, nothing. Like the bank accounts were drained. So people left. Everything was like a domino effect. Everything just collapsed right away. And when all of that happens, like you don't see anything, any little straw that you can grasp yourself to. Everything just goes dark.
But during this time, because this was your a business from your father, right, from your family. So
But just one of them.
just
So
one of
one
them.
company was that one, but
Mm,
then I later,
mm,
well, in between the
mm,
failure and
mm,
after my
mm.
father dying, I created a few more companies. One
Okay.
of them was this real estate one, then one was in renewable energy, and so on. So I did a few different things.
I'm just curious about that because you created more companies, right? So why did you why were you creating more companies?
Well, just I had always a lot of ideas. I guess I
Okay.
am that proverbial entrepreneur full of ideas. I see problems everywhere
Okay.
and I'm thinking about solutions. And when I come across a solution
Mm,
in the past, I was jumping very quickly
okay.
on it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm much smarter. But back then, I was like, oh, yeah, this is a great opportunity.
Okay.
This is a great opportunity. And yeah,
Yeah.
without too much thinking.
This is really a startup. I mean, a startup entrepreneur story. And then, how long was the dark phase? How long? How long was that?
Well, depending how you like, the super dark only lasted for about 6 months.
Mm,
But in those 6 months, it was really dark. Like literally whole days would go by, and I wasn't doing anything. Like that was like severe depression. And I wasn't even aware that I'm in depression. I was closing myself from everybody. So nobody really knew what's happening and so
mm,
on. So nobody could really even help me because they didn't know.
um.
I would just like, oh no, I don't have time to meet you. I'm so busy with stuff. So I would just close myself from the world and just be in my head 24/7, which was a very dark way to do it. And then those suicide attempts and stuff like that, some of them were like driving and the truck is coming and you just want to swing the steering wheel. The last one was I already went on the other side of the balcony and I remember still, it's still like it was yesterday in my head. I was holding myself with just the left hand for the fence, and I was already leaning down, looking down from the balcony, and at that moment, because that was on the fifth floor, neighbor downstairs on the ground floor had grass, and I was looking at that grass, and I remember saying, "Am I going to do this right?" Or will I just fail again and end up on a
Mm,
wheelchair and not solve
mhm,
the whole I need some peace and quiet? And that was something that triggered something that I still don't know whether it lasted 10 seconds or half an hour. I had like it's very blurry, but there were just so many thoughts going through, like, oh, you fail. Oh, you chose to go into this project. You chose to sign this up. You chose this partner. You chose that employee. You chose this. You chose that. And suddenly it was just like everything that I did wrong, like almost like flying into me. And as hard as that was to admit that it's actually me, it was also so liberating because my mind was, but if I change stuff, if I do things differently, if I made it all the way to here with doing things very wrong, imagine what I can do if I start doing things better. And that was that little ray of light. And then I climbed over.
mm.
I went into the room. I took out pen and paper. I started writing down every little thing that came to my head about what I need to learn, what I need to do differently. So just a whole list of all the things that I need to work on. So that was the super dark time. Now, here from this moment on starts struggling time, because it's not like, oh, I had this epiphany and then I climbed in, I wrote everything down, and now suddenly life is beautiful and everything changed. It doesn't work that way. It was fighting with so many little inner demons, being that spoiled brat, not knowing how the real life works, even like little things like waking up in the morning and stuff like that. So it was a struggle for quite a few years, working on my personal development, on business development, trying to survive. So what I did to survive was I was good at sales. Well, not sales. I was more like good at networking and making those B2B sales where you connect people, where you talk about deals and stuff. And I had a huge network of companies.
Mm.
And so I started reaching out and I was offering my services like, hey, would you mind if I try to sell some of your stuff and you give me some percentage if I make sales? Nobody says no to that. And like I said, I was lucky that I was good at doing that. I had a very good network. So those were my two leverages. And that's how little by little I started earning some money here, some money there, so that I could buy food, so that I could then do other stuff, to start repaying a little bit of all the things that I was owing, and so on. And that lasted for about 4 years.
Mm.
But to completely get out of the whole thing, it lasted 7 years.
Mm.
So it was a long journey. Now, granted, back then, I don't know if there were like coaches, consultants. Back then, I think Facebook was just being born. Like nowadays, you have, Facebook groups, Instagram, YouTube channels, like all of those things that are available. Back then, I had to order books from Amazon, from US, wait 5, 6 weeks for them to arrive with plane to Europe, and then read books. And then, you read one book, but you only get a few things out of it, and so you have to read a lot of books to get some information. Nowadays, you find a few good sources of podcasts, of some YouTube stuff. You can get the knowledge much faster than back then. So that's why it took me so long, because the whole setting was a little bit different about
Mm.
education and development.
Yeah. So it's like in what I hear. It's like near the sorry for the term, like near death reflection. Like suddenly everything hit you, and then you just realize that you should actually take over your life. You should actually act on yourself and not just like stop being too visionary, too grand, and then just work on yourself and do it yourself. And
Well,
basically,
visionary and grand is not a bad
yeah,
thing.
delusional. I mean, delusional.
You
So,
just have to do the right steps
yeah,
and
yeah,
lay down strong
yeah,
foundations
yeah.
and stuff like that. I mean, like if you would ask me how I see that moment, it's almost if I was a brick, and somebody came with a hammer and
Ah, yeah.
smashed it, and ground that into powder, and then created something new out of it. It's almost like even when I talk to people in person, with my close friends, I often refer to the old Miha and the new Miha. Like it's because those two people are completely different.
Yeah.
And people who know me from that time say, I can't believe how you made that 180-degree switch. Like there's nothing
Mm,
left of that
mm.
before
Oh.
2009 Miha.
So a macroeconomic crisis changed Miha.
Yes, yes, yes.
So here's the question, Mia. So you're the fail coach now, but during that time, if there was a coach who would like help you, who would give you advice, what do you think would you wanted to hear back then? I mean, what do you think was the best advice you could have received back then from maybe like a coach, a life coach, a business coach, especially during those dark times?
Well, funny. So that's how I really started Fail Coach, was asking myself, what would be something that
Yeah.
would help me
Yeah.
when I was going through all of that, that would be beneficial. And it's not one thing. Well, so often, especially because of all the social media, we think, oh, there's this one magical thing, one secret, one, I don't know, all of those clickbaity titles, one thing that will create, I don't know, something out of thin air. It's not one thing. It's a whole bunch of little things that when you combine them creates that duplication and a scaling effect. It's a whole bunch of little things. It's a little bit of personal development, a little bit of business development, a little bit of stuff like morning routine, mindfulness,
Mhm.
soft stuff like emotional intelligence, effective communication, empathy, and so on. Some hard stuff because you need that as well. Personality traits, behaviors that you need, positive behaviors, habits that you start developing and start working on, and all of those little things that start coming together, and it's almost like compounding. And then when it compounds enough, you have this big thing happening. But it's not just one thing that will get you there.
Yeah. And yeah, so just continuing the story, right? So after those years that you're slowly finding yourself, or you're slowly finding yourself back, right? So how did you continue becoming an entrepreneur? And did you already start the fail coach during that time?
No, 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 no. So first, like I said, after that last suicide attempt, I climbed back
Yeah.
in, made that list, started working on myself, and I started doing that sales stuff because that was the best way I knew how to leverage something that I'm already good at and something that I already have to make some money. While I was doing that, I already started developing something new, something that I started before the crisis, but then I stopped for a few months because of everything that happened. And it was an energy efficiency company helping big shopping malls, shopping centers to be to do better management of electricity and gas. And it took me 4 years of pitching, getting no after no after no. So I've done that part as well. I had about 300 pitches that were unsuccessful until in 2014 things started coming along. I found my first investor. A first potential client was ready to sign a letter of intent and so on, and we created that startup. Now unfortunately I can't talk too much about that startup because it was then 2 years later part of a hostile takeover by a big competitor, and I had to sign many NDAs. But that was then my exit from that startup. And in that startup, we grew revenue like crazy. And yeah, that was the startup that I exited. It enabled me to repay past debts.
Mm,
I had some money left over from that. Nothing too huge, but enough to retire.
mm,
And then I said, "Oh, okay, let's retire now." And I moved to Lisbon, Portugal.
mm,
And after 3 days of partying hard with all the crazy Australians, because if you want to party, just figure out where the Australians are. They know how to party. After 3 days, I was so bored. I was like, that's not the life I want. And I
mm,
opened a meetup app on my phone
mm,
and I started going in Lisbon to all the different meetups. And then, people ask you, well, introduce yourself. Oh, you had an interesting story of ups and downs. I would love to sit down with you for a coffee, want to run by something and hear your opinion. And so I would started going out, networking with entrepreneurs. And then a few weeks later or a few months later, they would come back and give me some feedback.
mm.
Oh, you advised me to do that and it worked. And every time when that happened, it felt so freaking
Oh.
good.
You
And
found your passion. You found
yes, something that felt much better than doing things for yourself was to do
Oh.
something for others. And yeah, then one day I'm sitting with a friend of mine, we're having a few beers, and I'm like, well, what do I want to do now in my life? I wasn't considering coaching, consulting. I was like, do I start a new company? What would that be? And it was actually him who said, well,
Oh.
but you love this part so much. Why wouldn't you turn this into business? Why wouldn't you do this as your business? And I don't know, maybe it was after a few beers, maybe something else, but and then I was like, well, yeah, you're right. But how do I call this thing?
Mm.
And then we started brainstorming. And again, he said, like, Micha, listen to yourself. Whenever we sit down, you start every freaking story with, remember when this happened, how it was a failure. But then you remember how we learned this and this and this, and then we did this and this, and then things turned out. Uh, everything with you is about the failure, learning from the failure, growing from failure,
Mm.
embracing failure.
Oh.
And then he said, you're the fail coach. And I was like, fail coach? Well, that sounds a bit crazy. Who would want to hire a fail coach? That didn't make any sense. But then I went online and I was like, name cheap. Let's go see if there's a domain name. I enter fail coach and it says fail.coach.
Oh,
Uh,
that coach.
and I was like, I love it. I love it. And I just bought the domain and everything else is then history. And the whole thing started as my own coaching thingy where I would mentor some startups, some entrepreneurs. But then I started meeting other coaches and consultants who were amazing at what they do, but they might not like marketing, they might not like sales, or they don't have, crazy story of losing 20 million in a single day. So it's harder for them to get booked on a podcast or booked for a conference or and stuff like that. And we started partnering up and growing little by little by little. And yeah, now I think today, by all the understanding that I have, I think we are the biggest consultancy
Mm.
for small and medium sized
Mm.
businesses in Europe. I don't
Mm.
think there is a bigger one, at least not that I'm aware of. You have the McKinseys and
Yeah, but
stuff,
those are
but
big ones.
those are for
Or yeah.
corporations, those are for governments. But for small businesses, the way we do it, I don't think
Mm.
that, like, I haven't found yet a consulting business that would be bigger than we are.
Yeah, before we proceed with like the fail coach and how it actually works. You when you made that next startup after like the dark times, I mean that startup, what do you think was the biggest difference of how you did your businesses before, your startups before, and this one?
I did everything different,
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah.
literally everything.
It was like a turnaround, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I really used all the lessons. So I did solid business development, product market fit, uh, marketing, sales mapping, internal systems, processes, corporate structuring, like everything, all the foundational stuff,
Mm,
hiring,
okay.
not for what I need, but for personality traits and positive
Oh.
behaviors. I was very clear on what's our company culture,
Mm.
values, yeah, different hiring, like like literally everything.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I think that's the major difference because now I mean, during that time, you did it like more grounded, more realistic, somehow more practical. Do you agree?
yeah,
And more fundamental. I think more fundamental for the business, for growing, for building the business, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
and a little bit wiser.
a little bit wiser.
Yeah.
And then I'm also curious, like the formulation of the fail coach. So you told me that you have advised some people, like remember that you failed in this part and then this is how you can maybe succeed. So can you just get some context on, or maybe some example, not maybe you don't have to like give all the details, but like what's the main concept, what's the main idea on it, on how you advise, on how you give, on how you become a coach?
Well, our process is basically twofold. So the first one is uh, examining the company. So almost like you haven't been to the doctor in many years. Some things are aching you. You don't know
Diagnosis.
exactly what it is. You go to your doctor, and if it's a good doctor, they will say, first, let's do blood tests, let's do x-rays, let's do this, let's do that. So that's the first part. We call it deep dive,
Oh.
where we examine the company. We talk with employees, with clients, with past employees if we can. We have a look at their financials, business model. Like we turn the company around a few times. And that's how we start. And then based on the findings there and talking with shareholders or with founders, we then see, okay, so what are your goals, ideas? Where do you see yourself? Do you want to go for an exit and sell your company in the next few years? Do you want to just be more passive? Do you want to be more in certain other
Mm.
role? So it's very tailor made. It's very boutique. We don't have blueprints and stuff like,
Mm.
oh, we always do this with a company. No, it's very well. Our uh, CEO Marina, she likes to say that we are bespoke. Just like, when you go buy a Rolls Royce, it says bespoke because they sit down with you and you can tailor any little piece. That's the way we do it. And because we are working with entrepreneurs, we understand that entrepreneurs want to be much more involved in that process of creation than, let's say, management at a corporation because it's their company. They want to be involved. So it's a partnership
Mm, yeah.
where we work together to create the best possible plan. And then and then we come to the second part, which normally old school consulting companies don't really do. But entrepreneurs, because they've never done what they have to do to get where they haven't yet been, that's a complicated sentence. They need help and support them and other people in their company on the implementation of that game plan. And so our collaborations with companies usually lasts anywhere from 1 year to 2, 3, sometimes
Oh.
even longer, depending what journey they're on. If they want to grow very fast, very big, then the
Mm.
journey will be longer. If they just want to put some solid foundations in place at the level where they are and maybe grow a little bit, then it will maybe be a 6-month engagement, 9-month engagement. So it really depends where they are, what they want to accomplish, how much growth, how much scaling, how complicated is their business, if it's a very simple business model or it's a very
Mm.
complicated one. So depending on all of those different things, but it all always we start with that deep dive.
Yeah.
That's the initial first step, because we can't talk about solutions if we are not
Yeah.
on the same page
Mm.
where they are right now.
Mm.
And one thing is listening to them, how they see it, but then when we dig
Mm.
in, we see many other aspects.
Mm.
And it's not that entrepreneurs are lying to us, it's just how they see it.
Yeah.
But you need that 360 overview
Yeah.
to really get a holistic
Mm.
understanding of their business.
Mhm. It's also like an objective view of the business. So it's like deep dive is like really understanding the whole who they really are, including their pains, maybe their challenges,
Yes.
and then here's the deep dive, here's the vision where they want to be, and then you actually kind of bridge that one. So
Yes.
do you give like concrete tactics, concrete things to do, or are these more like strategies? So how concrete are the things you advise to them?
Um, we give them like, that's the thing. Like, I don't like to put us in a bucket like, oh, we are coaches or we are consultants. We help and support them in any way needed.
Mm.
Sometimes we are teachers because we need
Mm-hmm.
to do some knowledge
Mm-hmm.
transfer. Sometimes you are coaching them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you are mentoring them. Sometimes you are a sparring partner. Sometimes you're brainstorming partner.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they, like, very often they tell us, oh, with you guys, it almost feels like I have a co-CEO
Yeah,
or somebody or a
an
shareholder,
outsourced CEO.
almost like that. And so yes, we are very actionable, very concrete. um so yeah, they
Mhm.
get all of that. So when we come up with something, they have clear path, clear action steps, clear what they have to do. We support them with templates, examples, like any way we can, so that it will be as easy as possible for them. They still struggle with a whole lot of inner demons, with a whole lot of everything. So we try to do as much as we can to support them, but it's not done for you. We can't do it for
Yeah,
them. They
yeah.
still have to go into the
Mhm.
trenches and do some stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's much easier than if they would be doing that on their own.
How often do you like meet them? How often? Is it like regularly, every week, every day?
It really depends.
Okay.
I would say that the least is at least once a month.
Okay.
With some, it's bi-weekly. With
Mm.
most of them, it's weekly.
Yeah.
But then, one thing that's a bit unique about our approach is we use Signal, which is like Viber, like WhatsApp.
Mm.
We
Yeah, yeah,
use
yeah, yeah.
Signal to stay in touch in between.
Mm, mm,
So very often they will, in the morning, record a quick voice message, how the morning routine went, what they have in plan. Throughout the day, they will, hey, this happened, or oh, I just had an employee come to me with this and this and this. I'm not sure, how should I react? Do I need to talk to them? What should I do? So it's really very intimate relationship. And they really feel supported 24/7,
mm,
not just, oh, one call every week. And then it depends on, certain things are monthly, certain things are project based. So it might be we need 2 sessions, 5 sessions, or maybe it will be a 2-day training session. So it really depends. That there's
mm.
a lot of different things that go into this.
Mm. And before, so now you're doing the fail coach in the Philippines, right? I mean, you also want to help entrepreneurs here. You actually want to expand your coaching here. But in Europe, so how big really is the fail coach? And can we get like maybe a bit of a profile of what type of small and medium businesses do you coach? Yeah. So.
Well, fail coach with people who are fully working for fail coach, and some people who are part-time jumping in on certain project, is almost 60 people.
Mm,
And in the past, like, when did I start it? So 2016. So that's 8 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah. So in this 8 years, we already had over 350 small and
Oh,
medium
wow.
sized businesses. I did a lot of other stuff as well, and we did some other stuff, but like, proper businesses, normally they, when they come to us, they have 15 to 20 employees, up to maybe 100. So that is usually the range where they are. And revenue wise, normally they are roughly between 1 and 10 million US dollars, euros per year in revenue. Sometimes they come even if they're at half a million. Sometimes they are at 15 or 20. But I would say that big majority of them is in that 1 to 10 million range. Industries, very different. Many clients who are marketing agencies, many clients who are in different parts of IT outsourcing, IT doing whole project, SaaS companies with their own products, manufacturing companies, accounting companies, distribution, e-commerce, retail, many different industries. We had veterinarians who had the goal and plan to
To make it
grow
big.
and
Yeah.
expand. And yeah, dentist. One startup from Europe that is similar to Invisalign. and so on. So yeah, quite a broad array of
Yeah.
clients, because the way we do things is when we start working with, so let's say, I don't know, you come to us, you are the expert of what you do. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
say you're an architect, you are the
Yeah.
expert. We will not teach you how to do architecture
Yeah, yeah.
or what software to use or stuff like that. What we help you is build a business around it, how to market yourself, how to sell yourself, how to do customer experience, how to structure, how to put leadership in place in your company, and stuff like that. How to fix hiring processes, onboarding processes, employee retention, create company culture, embed company culture, performance management. So all of the things that make the business, but you know the architecture. We are not doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you don't have to be niche specific.
Mm. I'm actually, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, so I have this podcast, and actually, maybe, I mean, I'm just considering like the possibilities of like turning it into a full fledged business. So maybe there's some possibility with that. But yeah, anyway. So now you're in the Philippines. So what got you in the Philippines? So because you're already doing this in Europe, right? So but what got you in the
Yeah.
Philippines?
Well, so I'm not here to do business.
Okay.
If something happens, I
Mm.
won't mind it. But what got me was, so we have to go a few years back. I was always dreaming, like, I love summer. I hate winter. I hate cold.
Wait, is there winter in Slovenia? In is
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
A harsh winter.
Snow,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
minus
Yeah.
degrees,
Yeah.
and so
How about
on.
how's the summer there?
Very hot,
Very
hotter
hot.
than here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then winter very cold.
Okay.
And so my fetish was always, I want to live somewhere where I can wear flip-flops all year long. And
A tropical country.
yes. And so my thinking was either maybe Latin America or
Mm.
Southeast Asia.
Mm.
And now in my life, I traveled around a lot. I've already visited, I think it's all over 70 different
Mm.
countries. So I've traveled quite a lot. I've been to Philippines first time in
Oh.
1998
Oh.
or
Okay.
99, something like that.
Things are very different back then.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
very different.
In
But
Manila,
um,
or in
in Cebu,
here in Cebu. Here. Okay. Okay.
yes, in Cebu, and so uh, uh, when it was down to Asia, because the time zone is much better for me because
Mm.
I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
So now I have the whole morning before the Europe wakes up.
Okay.
If I would be in Latin America, I would need to
Yeah, yeah,
wake
yeah,
up at
yeah,
insanely
yeah,
crazy
yeah,
morning hours.
yeah.
So that's why Asia won. And then there were two countries. One was Vietnam, the other one was Philippines. Vietnam because I really love Vietnamese food. I really love it. That's minimalistic, a lot of vegetables. I love it. And so it was down to Vietnam or the Philippines. I decided for Philippines because it's just, I don't know, like the island life. I don't know. It's just better, and you have plenty of good Vietnamese restaurants
Yeah,
everywhere,
actually,
so
yes.
you can eat Vietnamese
Yeah.
food easily. And for me, when thinking about Philippines, it was never really a question where. I always knew that it will be Cebu.
Mm.
Why? Because you have most of what you get in Manila, not everything. I mean, you have more restaurants in Manila, more this, more that, better malls. Like you do have better things, but it's not so much worse here. It's comparable.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but then you don't have that big city, 20 million people, crowdiness. So it's much easier to get around, much more relaxed. And so for me, and then in that process, I found myself uh, in a relationship with a lady from Davao, who is now my wife, and so things just got together. So
Mm.
yeah, now over 1 year already living in the Philippines, in Cebu, and just yeah enjoying married life. and just yeah, trying to network, get
Mm-hmm.
to know people, do some podcasts, maybe go visit some conferences, meet some
Mm-hmm.
Filipino founders,
Yeah.
maybe some international
Mm-hmm.
founders who are here. What will happen? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there will be a new fell coach at some point, maybe not. I'm not very obsessed, like, oh, I need to make
Okay. Okay.
something. Now, I really do love helping people. I really do love giving some value. I like in the last 10-ish years, my thinking is to enter somebody's life or to go somewhere and leave it a bit better when you exit than it was when you came in. So hopefully our interaction a few days ago and today will give something so that your life will be better than it was a week ago
Yeah.
because of it. And the same with the country, the city. So last few years before moving to the Philippines, I lived in Eastern Europe because I was also involved there in some animal rescue stuff and so
Mm-hmm.
on. And again, I started doing meetups and stuff like that, mentoring, helping. And now they have a very vibrant community of entrepreneurs. I know that personally, because of the things I did, many companies became better dealing in international environment, got clients from abroad, better clients, and so on. And I just know that I left Eastern Europe a bit better than it was
Mm-hmm.
when I moved there. And that's the whole point. And I hope that I will be able to do the same here in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines. I just honestly want to help
Mm-hmm.
any way I can. Um, and yeah, if eventually some business comes out, some opportunities, I'm very open. I have plenty of time, plenty of capacity to start something, to do something. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, let's
I'm not
connect
forcing
you.
anything.
Let's connect you with some Filipino founders. I think a lot of them will learn from you. I think so far I've been learning a lot from you. So I think many other Filipino people, Filipino founders can actually learn from you. But how do you think about the Filipino culture? I mean, also the Filipino food, the Filipino lifestyle.
Well,
How different is it like from the European lifestyle or from what you have been experiencing before?
well, it's not really that different. Let's be honest. I mean, Philippines were under Spain for a very
Yeah.
long time. And so when you look at south parts of Europe, like the Balkans,
Yeah.
Greece, south of Italy, Spain, Portugal, um, it really is a lot. You find more common things than differences.
Mm,
Um, it is cleaner in Europe, so that's one thing that uh, it's hard to overlook here. And the weather is much better, at least for me. My wife constantly complains. She's constantly, oh, it's so hot. And I'm like, what are you talking? You're from here. Uh, Look at me. I'm not complaining. I'm not sweating. I'm enjoying it here. So the food uh, is a bit too heavy for me. Like I said, I like the Vietnamese food. But, lechon, that's the main food. Like half of Europe will say that the
Oh.
actual king of the animal world is the pig because they love roasting pig
Roasted
and
pig.
stuff like that. So it's not okay. Yes, in Europe they eat more potatoes, here more rice, but those are very subtle, small
Mm,
differences. So it's not like often in the past, before moving here, before even thinking about the move, when people who knew me would ask me, oh, I'm thinking of traveling to Asia. Where are you recommending? Because you've been around Asia, where would you recommend me to go? My recommendation was always go to the Philippines first. Why? Because it's the most close to what you're used in Europe or
mm,
in the Western world. It won't be a huge cultural shock. Because if you go to Cambodia, you go to
Mm, very
Vietnam, or
Asian. Very.
it's a very big culture shock because not many people speak English. It's very
Yeah.
hard to get by. It's very, very different. This is kind of like the blend of
Yeah,
both
yeah,
worlds.
yeah.
And so for somebody not being in Asia before, coming to the Philippines, amazing first step. It will be a little step out of the comfort zone, but not too big. So, and then from here, go maybe to Thailand, which is very touristical. And then from Thailand, maybe Vietnam. Now you're ready. Now you can go to China, to whatever you want. Korea, like, doesn't really matter.
And do you plan to stay here in the Philippines for a long time, right? Because you already have your wife here.
Well, I mean, uh, that's hard to say. I mean, we will probably travel around the world as much as we can. Now,
Mm.
will we move outside at some point? I don't know. But just the other day, I was talking to ChatGPT. I don't know. Somebody asked me about it. Like, ooh, would you move again? And I was like, where would I move? And then I had a conversation with ChatGPT and I explained to him all of the things that I love about the Philippines and what's
Mm.
important to me, things that are maybe a little bit missing from my life, or like I'm getting older, so at some point good hospitals will be a
Yeah, yeah,
good,
yeah. It's a
well,
very big
hopefully I
factor.
don't
Yeah.
need that, but the likelihood is that I will probably need some sort of support and help. But then, Kuala Lumpur is close by, so you can, catch a plane, go there. And ChatGPT didn't have any good suggestions, so I might just stay here. I wouldn't mind staying in the Philippines long term, but
Mm,
yeah, let's see
mm,
what happens.
yeah. Yeah, so going back to the business talk. So what do you think about the business ecosystem in the Philippines? Like the large first maybe like I'm not sure if you have already interacted with some Filipino entrepreneurs or some founders, but like maybe their
Just a little
personality,
bit.
just a little some like the personality of the Philippine entrepreneurs and maybe like the larger business ecosystem here. So what do you think about it? How different is it maybe from Eastern Europe?
Well, Asia in general is a bit different than Europe and in
Mm,
US or North America. Let's include Canada as well. So there, a lot is based on the brand building. Customer experience is very important thing. Premium, how to position yourself, premium and stuff. And in Asia, it's very orientated toward the price, and how cheaper, discounts, stuff like
mm,
that. Instead, but then on the other hand, you still buy Apple stuff, you still buy those brands from the West, but there are very little brands created in the East. Not
yeah,
many.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Like if we would talk about brands right now, we would probably mention a
It's
lot
all
of US
Western.
brands.
There are a few Asian brands. I mean, like
Yes, there are.
Chinese, Korean,
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah. But I think a lot more can be done in that way
Yeah,
on
yeah,
a
yeah,
more
yeah.
micro level. You don't have to be known worldwide
Mm,
like Apple to do solid branding, customer experience. You can be just known in your niche.
yeah.
Just like how we were able to build the brand around Fail Coach, and it's recognized in Europe that it's a premium experience and you get premium experience and you feel supported, you know that you will be supported, that you will be taken care, that we really care about your success and stuff like that. And those are the things that just it known in the entrepreneurial community. It's not like everybody knows about that. Most people probably never heard about Fel Coach, but in entrepreneurial community,
Mm,
people know who we are and what we stand for and how we do what we do. And so you can do the same in a smaller micro space here as well, especially when trying to deal with the Western world. There's a lot that can be done in how you present yourself, how you communicate certain things, and so on. So that's definitely one thing. And then yeah, you have a lot of big corporations, and I don't know how much entrepreneurship there is. It's very hard to just see entrepreneurship. I've been struggling figuring that out, to be honest. And that's why I said, well, you know what? Let's start going to this podcast. Maybe I'll get some invites to come to some
Mm,
conferences, and then I'll finally be in a room full of entrepreneurs. Because most entrepreneurs that I have met so far are those BDOs.
yeah,
And it feels like that's it, but I can't believe that that's it. I'm sure there must be much more. I just haven't found it yet.
yeah. Here's the thing with the Philippines. Actually, the Philippines has, I'm not sure with like in Slovenia maybe or in Eastern Europe, in Europe, the Philippines actually has like 96% or 99% MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. But do you know who they are? They are your sari-sari store. Actually, some of them are not registered, but like your laundry shops, your computer shops, those very retail, those very direct to consumer business,
Yeah.
those very small businesses. But of course, there are also like corporations here in the Philippines. I mean, large corporations, and right now, yeah, right now, startup founders, and right now, actually, or let me ask you, what do you think is like the main industry of the Philippines? Like in your perspective, like the biggest
Shopping centers,
shopping centers. Actually,
everybody.
that's true. That's true. That's
No, I
true.
mean, and I get it. It's like all over Asia.
Yeah,
I understand
yeah.
it
But
because
actually, Philippines is one of the most shopping, actually, like mall-oriented demographic population.
I'm not sure. I can remember very similar experience
There's
in
one,
Thailand.
but there's one factor. Filipinos go to the mall for the air condition, for the free air conditioning, for the
No,
free.
no, that's what I wanted to say. All across Asia and even Middle
Yeah.
East, that's where you go because it's air conditioned and you go for the experience, not so much for the shopping. The shopping happens online.
I know why. Because you're in Cebu. If you go to Manila, it's much different. I tell you. It's
Okay,
really, it's like the malls are the people's houses.
okay.
But yeah, yeah. But anyway, I mean, here in Cebu, what do you think about like the BPO industry? Can I ask you that? Yeah.
I don't know that much.
Okay, okay, okay.
I honestly don't know that much. I would say that probably the main industry of the Philippines, I would guess it's tourism. That would be my
Actually,
guess.
no. Actually, no. I mean, tourism is the biggest potential of the Philippines, but for me, it's not being that much leveraged on. I think personally the Philippines should like capitalize more on the tourism industry. But right now, I mean, Thailand gets more tourists
They
and
get more.
they get
Yeah.
better treatment actually. Japan, I mean, it like in Asia alone, the Philippines is of course very beautiful islands, but I think like the how it's being done, how it's being
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of room for improvement
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because I mean, for me, just for me, so maybe let's talk a bit more like
sure.
economical. I mean, industry wise, right now I think the Philippines is very much focusing on expanding the BPO, the business process outsourcing industry, because we have a lot of people, a lot of manpower who can speak English, and like the cost of living in the Philippines is relatively low. So like foreign companies can like outsource their some of their jobs here, some of the
Yeah, but
so
that's very dangerous
yeah,
behavior,
yeah,
especially like we see what's happening in the whole AI space
yeah,
and like the
exactly.
overall technology space.
Yeah,
Like the advancement is insane,
yeah,
crazy. Like if you just look at something how it was last year and how it
yeah,
is like the video creation. Like a year ago, those videos looked like crap. Now
yeah, yeah.
they get 30 seconds, 1 minute long videos that look like professionally made.
Mm,
Like what will happen in the next 1, 2, 3 years? And these are jobs that will probably be automatized as soon as possible. Companies will want to figure out a way how to remove
yeah,
those jobs as soon
mm,
as possible. So, uh, basing your long-term strategy
exactly.
on this, I'm like, it's okay to say, okay, right now it's still a thing. Let's move in. Let's see what we can do. They grab as much as we can and then exit in 2, 3, 4 years. But we are ready that we will exit as soon as things become
Mm,
crazy. but not as a long-term strategy.
I don't think there's a strategy like that, like a long term strategy like that. But I very much agree that it's very dangerous. And the Philippines don't even have a lot of like a good farming industry, agriculture industry. We actually import a lot of
Yeah,
food.
I know.
Even
It's
yeah,
so like I love cooking,
yeah. Mm-mm.
and like I said, I love very much Mediterranean food, Vietnamese food, and both of them have a lot of vegetables, and it's so hard to find good vegetables.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very hard.
Yes.
So yeah, I think farming there could be something done
It,
to do more of that.
yeah, farming and even like the distribution, like the supply chain, the chain of how from farm the produce gets to the market or gets to the consumers themselves. So there's a lot of things to be done, right? Even like for example, manufacturing clothes, gadgets, devices. So the Philippines also imports a lot. So here's the question now. Do you think the Philippines should have more entrepreneurs, should improve its entrepreneurial
Absolutely.
ecosystem? And why? And why?
Absolutely. I mean, like if you look at the West, the backbone of all those economies,
Yeah.
backbone of US economy, which is unfortunately the biggest one in the world. Like we Europeans, we don't like US as much. We like people from US. We just don't like the whole how they behave worldwide. But the backbone of their economy is small and medium sized businesses. Europe, small and medium sized businesses, not corporations.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's why you need like the innovation, change, and also like, and I think we discussed that last time when we met. Uh, I firmly believe, this is my opinion
Go.
alone. I firmly believe that uh, there are four big powers in this world who want you to be unhappy. Because if you're happy, you don't need them. One, corporations. If you are happy, you don't need much. If you're unhappy, then they can tell you, oh, you know what? Buy this new Prada
Consumerism.
bag or this or that. Yeah. But if you're happy, you don't need
Yeah.
much. All you need is something to drink, something to eat, a roof above your head, and that's really it. So corporations. Second thing is media. If you're happy, you don't care really what's happening in the media, so they can't really manipulate with you unless you're unhappy, because then you will be, oh, I need to read what's happening or watch or whatever. The third one would be politicians, governments, political parties. If you're happy, you don't care about that. If you're unhappy, then they can polarize you. They can
Yeah.
charge you against somebody. Look at what's happening in the US. I mean, I'm not yet very familiar with the politics in the Philippines. Maybe I never will be. I don't know. I'm quite happy, so I don't need to look so much at what's happening. But you see the polarization and how they're trying to charge one half of the country against the other half of the
Mm.
country. And so if
Mm.
you're happy,
Mm.
you don't do that. If you're unhappy, then you need something to do that. So that's the third one, and the fourth one is religion. I have nothing against religious
Mm.
beliefs. If you want to believe in God, believe in God. If you want to believe in Buddha, believe in Buddha. If you want to believe in spaghetti, believe in spaghetti. If you want to believe in karma or energy or whatever you want to believe, do that. But you can find that spirituality and
Yeah.
religion inside of you. You don't need to go to church for somebody to tell you what you should think and believe. And again, if people are happy, then they don't go there. Uh, and so those are the four groups that I think have very strong need for humanity to be unhappy so that they can control and manipulate and sell more to the. And now one thing where I do believe that we have positive thing is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs in general want to do something good for the employees because they're afraid if I don't treat my employees well enough, they'll go work for the corporation. So
Mm.
I have to treat them better.
Mm.
I have to do better. Um, I have to take care of my community because I live here. like big corporations, big politicians, they're so disenchanted away from the local where they are. But when you're an entrepreneur, when you have like your small business here, you start looking around. That once this is working properly, you start looking around. So my firm belief is that if anybody is going to do something good for the world, it's entrepreneurs.
Mm.
I think the change happens with entrepreneurs.
I actually agree. Firstly, I think the Filipinos are unfortunately victimized by those four. Actually, those four forces are really powerful in the Philippines. And, I mean, the Philippines is very has a very unequal society. I mean, in terms of equity, in terms of wealth, in terms of financial wealth. But something strange for me because the Filipinos are still considered to be one of the happiest, one of the most content, one of the most cheerful, one of the friendliest people in the world. So and it's kind of strange that like those four forces actually somehow exploit the Filipino people, but the Filipino people are still, I don't know, resilient and
Well, I don't know why that is, and I'm not a
yeah.
psychologist to dive into something like that. But yeah, I see with my wife's family, like they can be very happy with very little.
Mm,
Like in Europe and especially in America, you have much more ambition in people, especially in America. Like America, like it's almost unhealthy how ambitious they
uh,
are and how much
mm,
they're driven by
yeah,
success and achievement. That
capitalist.
so in my view, Europe is a nice middle ground where you still have some healthy life balance. You still have time for yourself, for your health, for your family, and so on. So I think it's more well balanced, but more innovation is coming from North America. And that's because of that culture there that is much more driven. And in
I see.
Asia, what I'm seeing, and again, not just Philippines, but in Asia, more complacency. Like people are content and happy, and they just very quickly accept
Yeah.
things. It is what it is. Maybe a bit too zen. And yeah, just take stuff away from them, and
Yeah,
they will be very unbothered.
that's the problem. I mean, we keep on being exploited. We keep on being stolen. I mean, things are continuously being
Yeah,
stolen from us.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean about that entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I actually believe also. I mean that's also why the startup podcast is here. I actually want to inspire more Filipino entrepreneurs and innovators. I believe in that small and medium entrepreneurs are actually should be the backbone of a country's economy because they have hope and they have goodness in their hearts. Maybe, but um, yeah, because in the Philippines, as I said, so there's actually a lot of MSMEs, but the problem is they are not actually empowered. So they actually still have. I mean, yeah, I mean your local barbershops, your local retail stores, most of them are like small family owned or like
Yeah.
individual owned. But the problem is they keep they stay small. So what do you think should in terms of that? What do you think should the Philippines do? Should the Filipino entrepreneurs do? And maybe you coming in as a coach, maybe what do you think should be like uh a a, a something for them to think about?
Well, the first thing, so and this was something that I learned just a few years ago. So, being from Europe and English not being my first language, I thought that entrepreneurs and business owners is the same thing. And then when I
I
started
see, I see.
digging around,
Okay.
at least what I learned is that entrepreneur is somebody with that growth mindset. They want to
Oh,
grow, they want to become bigger. Startup owners or just entrepreneurs, they don't have to be in the startup, but let's call them the Elon Musks of the world. Let's call it like that. And then you have the business owners,
okay,
which
I
is
get it.
more small.
Mm,
Like, oh, I just want to have a small business with maybe just family is employed, maybe we have one or two more employees, and that's it. We stop there.
Mm.
And I think if this is even correct, this
Yeah,
is
I
the
agree. I
what
agree.
I found.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing from you is that in the Philippines, you have a lot of business
Yeah.
owners
True. True. True.
who want to do something like we will open a sari sari
Mm.
uh,
Store. Yeah.
and yeah, but not the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to open one and then expand
Hmm.
to five and then expand to 10 and then be on 10 different islands and so on. And you can't force that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That entrepreneurship needs to come from within. What we can do, and I hate the word empowerment because
Okay.
I believe that you can't empower somebody. You can
Uh.
uh, enable them and support them and motivate them, but they have to empower themselves. Because I think the moment when you empower somebody, they are not empowered, because if you power them, you can take away the power as well. So I think the
Oh.
empowerment only comes from within. But what we can do is do this more and more and more, talk about this a lot, and slowly help people that they will empower themselves to start believing that it's possible. I think we just need to keep talking about it, keep opening this discussion, use as many opportunities as we can, inspire them,
Hmm.
and then through that inspiration, empowerment will come.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it.
I agree. I agree. Actually, good thing you pointed that out. And now it's more at least distinguished in my head, and maybe for our listeners, that entrepreneurs. Also, yeah. So the podcast, there's actually two words mainly. I mean, there's actually two important words for the startup podcast PH: entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurship is like, as you said, so it's more than owning a business. It's actually like controlling and growing that business, building that business for the community, for maybe for the whole country. And second, innovation. So innovation, we need to keep updated. I mean, we need to constantly update ourselves, our systems, our products with regard to what's happening in the world, right? So yeah, so about that growth part. So what do you think does it take for business owners or for local small entrepreneurs to really grow, to really build? Because for me, this is important in terms of like the economical aspect of a society. There needs to be more balance. Like this is like the economical power of the large corporations, of the large companies. And for example, here's the economic power of SMEs, small and medium businesses. We need to balance that scale. We need to balance that. So, what do you think needs to happen for business owners, for Filipino entrepreneurs to grow bigger? To
Well, one thing is for them to empower themselves and for us to inspire them, so that they start believing that they can actually do that, that it's not a made up dream, that it is a
Mm.
possibility. Now, as you were saying all of this, one thing came to my head, and it is stay humble. Um, when you go on an entrepreneurial journey, you have to do a lot of the stuff that you haven't yet done before. And so there will be
Mm.
a lot that you don't know. I mean, in life, as you start going down that path of personal and business development, the more you learn, the more you figure out how little you know. But especially in the early stages, some entrepreneurs get cocky, just the way I did back before 2009. And then life slapped me, and I needed that slap. But so stay humble and just there's so much help out there. In like 15, 20 years ago, not so much. Today, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, like so many free resources, so many meetups, events, conferences, online events, so many different things happening, and so many opportunities in today's world. Like I actually every week try to participate at least one online meetup.
Mm.
Sometimes that's in the US,
Mm.
sometimes Australia, sometimes in UK, sometimes in some other country, all from the comfort of my home office in Cebu. That was not possible 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
10 years ago, you had to buy a ticket, fly, buy a
Mm.
hotel room. Like even Airbnb was not yet existing back then. So it was hotels that were much more expensive. And so it was a huge effort to do what today we can do from the comfort of our home. And so don't be afraid to learn, to ask, to communicate. You need teachers in life and you need peers in life. Create a supportive environment of uh, start meeting with
Mm.
people who are also entrepreneurs by heart. Support each other, share stuff. I'm going through this. Oh, I'm trying to do this. Oh, I've done that before. This is how I did it. Like just surround yourself with teachers. So people who are where you want to be, who can tell you how to get there, and surround yourself with people who are trying to achieve the same goal as you are so that you have that support system around you. There's so much available out there for free. You don't even need to pay anything. Now, of course, if you want to speed it up a little bit, you want to have advice tailor made. That's why companies come to us because they don't want to filter through all the different things and they just want to go to
Yeah,
somebody who
yeah.
will tell them, do this, 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 and this. And you pay for that, but you don't need that. It will take a bit longer, but you don't need that. At least not in the beginning. There's plenty out there you can do for free. And then as you start growing, then yeah, of course it makes sense because in business and in life, it's all about time or money. So you either pay or you pay with time. You pay with money, you pay with time. And so as you start making some money, it actually makes more sense to buy time than have
Yeah.
more money because you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And so then to make time, you just start and you start paying agencies or freelancers or employees to do stuff for you. And sometimes you pay some consultants, coaches, mentors to help you in developing certain things. But you don't have to go down that path.
So are you open to coaching Filipino entrepreneurs, Filipino SMEs who might approach you after listening to our conversation?
I mean, I'm always open. So yeah, they can reach out to me. I will be very happy to take some time to jump on a call. Uh, at least offer some advice if I can. But yeah, I'm also very open to exploring. Or if somebody has a meetup or something, and they can send me an invitation, I will happily join. It's perfectly fine for me to jump on a plane, fly to Manila or to Davao or I don't know, wherever, spend one day there and then fly back or stay the night and the next day fly back. So I'm very open to exploring the Philippines and connecting, traveling with meeting fellow entrepreneurs or fellow future entrepreneurs, or people who are in that supporting part. Maybe they are working at a co-working space that's organizing stuff, or maybe
Yeah.
they are organizing a conference or supporting an organization of something like that. Yeah, I would love to meet
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talk to them. And the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn.
Mm. And I can actually connect with you with some. I actually was invited here in Cebu. So Startup Podcast Page was invited here in Cebu by a co-working space, by a co-working office called N Space Cebu. And they're not just a co-working office. They also provide business support to startups, especially. So they're also like building the community. So as you said, that's very important, really building a supportive community, a supportive ecosystem where entrepreneurs can really connect with each other. But here's another question. So do you think if you will do, I mean, if you might actually most likely you will do fail coach here. But I mean, Do you think no, because I'm saying it because listening to you right now, I think given the I'm not yet sure about like how much does it cost for Filipino entrepreneurs, but for me, those that value you provide can actually help a lot of Filipino founders, a lot of Filipino entrepreneurs. But do you think we will do like the same? Do you think you will have the same structure, the same approach in helping companies, small and medium companies in Europe and here in the Philippines? Do you think would it be the same?
No,
No.
no. I mean, it's a different environment. Like, one of my personal core values and core values that Fail Coach was built upon is provide being of service, being I'm always saying, like, I want to be remembered as being a person of service and value to others. And so everything that we do in Fail Coach in Europe is guided by what will be valuable. We don't do stuff just to do
Okay,
it.
yeah.
And so the way I do business development and the way my colleagues now do business development is we talk with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they explain to us what struggles they have, what desires they want,
Mm,
how they
mm,
think, what they think, and then we combine what we know and our experiences, our knowledge with what we hear, and the blend of that
mm,
is then what happens in the fail coach. Those things then become products or services and so on.
mm. So
And
it's
so here in the Philippines or in Southeast Asia, um, we I would do the same. I would talk with a whole bunch of
yeah.
entrepreneurs, listen to them, see what they want, how they want it, what they struggle with, and then start putting the puzzle pieces together through the experience that I have, the knowledge that I have,
Yeah.
and then I don't know. Maybe certain things would be just the same as in
Mm,
Europe, and certain things would be more tailor made to. And there's a difference if a company wants to be more locally orientated in the Philippines, or more locally in the Southeast Asia,
mm,
or they want to be more orientated toward the West. If they want to be more orientated towards Europe, you will have different strategies in place than if you want to be orientated towards North America. Those are two very different markets. And so you need different strategies to enter those two different markets. And so based on all of those things, and the guiding principle behind it would be, do I truly believe that this can provide value to people? And I will only do things if that check mark is checked.
mm.
Because at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I want to fall asleep peacefully. And I only way I can do that is if I do things throughout the day that I truly believe are of
Mhm.
value and service to others.
Yeah, knowing that you did good, that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually very true. I mean, when you work as a coach with maybe an entrepreneur, it's really communication and understanding. So really being on the same page. So it's really like having you as part of their team. It's really like um including you in their team, but not more also like more also like having an external point of view of the team
Yeah.
of the structure that they
Yeah.
have, right? Yeah, so let's end this podcast with some advice for our we're over an hour already. I didn't actually I didn't actually feel it. Um let's end this with maybe what are the best advice that you can give to maybe Filipino entrepreneurs if they want to grow, they want to build further, they want to build larger, and maybe if they want to go global. So, what do you think should they have in mind? What do you think should they do? And yeah, maybe just share your experience, share your thoughts, and maybe
Okay.
those words can help our
Okay.
Filipino entrepreneurs.
Well, let's avoid some specific advice that would be, oh, in this case, you should do this and
Yeah.
this to achieve that, because we don't know who is listening, and we can't just throw some general stuff out of the window and hope it will stick. Uh, One thing that's very important for entrepreneurs is Your outside world cannot grow beyond your inner world. So if you want things to happen on the outside, in your business, in your surrounding, outside of you, you first have to work on developing yourself. You have to grow so that things outside of you can grow. It never happens the other way around. I mean, never is a strong word. A few times a year, somebody wins the Powerball for $1 billion in US as well. But the likelihood of that happening is very, very, very low. So unless you like gambling, and some people do, and going with those odds, then take that advice. Constantly work, like working on yourself, on your personal development, is a lifelong journey. I will die, and that's when I will stop working on myself. It doesn't happen other way around. So personal development, very important. Business development, very important. And then another thing would be soft stuff. So many times overlooked. Uh, but emotional intelligence, communication skills, conflict resolution, empathy are so needed for many, many different areas in your life and in your business, working with people, creating marketing and sales strategies, customer experience. So damn underrated. So few companies intentionally working on customer experience. Customer experience is not customer support. Customer support is reactive. Oh, we have a problem. Okay, we'll respond to that. Customer experience is proactive, doing things when people don't even expect anything. If you want an example of good customer experience, just go to any good five-star hotel like Marriott chain. A very good customer experience, very good one. And last week, we experienced a very poor customer experience at a very known hotel here in Cebu, not from Marriott. And so, yeah, those softer things, branding, very important. Customer experience, very important. Soft skills, very important. And another thing, if you are the smartest person in your company, that's not good thing. You have to start thinking, how can I surround myself with people, or how can I be a servant leader and help people who are around me grow beyond me? When you are surrounded with people who are smarter and better than you, and you are there to steer the ship, that's where when you're in the right place, because you can't have freedom if you don't have people around you that are good and qualified. And at the end of the day, I think every entrepreneur goes into entrepreneurship for the freedom. I call it the freedom of choice. It's a huge difference when you wake up, you say, "Oh, I have to do this and this and this."
Yeah.
Or if you wake up and you say, "You know what? I choose to do this today." You might end up doing same thing, but the energy completely different. When you choose to do stuff,
Yeah.
when you don't have to do anything at all, and then you choose to do what you want to do instead of, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And that's, in my opinion, what the freedom is all about. And so to get to that freedom, you will need people, you will need systems and processes, you will need automatization, you might need some AI stuff, and so on. There's a whole bunch of ingredients that goes into that that will lead you to freedom. So yeah, um, I don't think, like, I can go on for another few hours. That's not a problem for me, but maybe your
Yeah.
listeners will be tired by now.
Yeah, but actually, good thing you mentioned the freedom of choice. Actually, that's also personally for me, and that's also why I think many Filipinos should consider entrepreneurship, because we're so used to being in that routine stuff. I mean, doing same things over and over again. And those things are actually, we do it not because we want to do, but we do it because first we need our salaries, and then these are actually things being told to us to be done. So for the Philippines, for me to have a proper direction, as its own direction, I think Filipinos should choose freedom of choice, and more Filipinos should become entrepreneurs. And another takeaway from what you said. So I also realized now that I come here in Cebu, because I from Manila, and it's kind of a bit different. I mean, the startup ecosystem there is a bit different. The entrepreneurial ecosystem there is a bit different. Like, I realized somehow there are three stages for a business ecosystem in a, like, in a community, in a city, in a province. So first is like awareness of the people there, that, oh, there's an opportunity to be free. There's an opportunity to become entrepreneurs. So like the awareness, the motivation, the inspiration that, oh, it's possible. Second is actually like where you're actually enabling people. So like, how, once they're aware, how do they actually turn that imagination, that dream, into reality? So that's how they formulate their strategies on how they build their businesses. Maybe that's where they need coaches. There's where they need people to consult on. And third is like the acceleration, like further really building, scaling their business and really growing it. So,
Yeah,
right?
very nice recap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's also, I for me, fail coach is like on the first and on the second, and some also on the third, right? So it actually covers all three, probably three levels of maturity
Yeah,
yeah,
we really support them throughout big journeys.
yeah,
Like we had uh past clients who came to us when they were barely with a few people, making 500,000
yeah,
maybe in revenue, not profits, revenue per year. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, many successful exits.
mm,
um we're talking tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars or euros in exits. Uh, Entrepreneurs who came to us and they were like, "Oh, I'm working 12 hours every day, 7 days a week." And now they work maybe 10, 15 hours a week on in their business, and they have time to travel and spend time with the family, like just whatever they want to do. That's why I call it the freedom of choice. You
yeah,
will choose something, I choose maybe something different. The important thing is that we both have that freedom to choose
yeah,
uh, whatever that
exactly.
might be.
Yeah,
So yeah, we can really help and support them, and that was the idea behind Fail Coach. Because when you are a small and medium sized entrepreneur, you don't have the resources of humans,
mm,
past experience, knowledge, and money to hire consulting for this, consulting for that. It's not just the money that you pay, but you also need the manpower behind it to like in big corporation, it's different because you have all these different departments and this and that. And when consultants come in, they have this huge infrastructure behind that can then take what the consultants did and
mm,
implement and so on. But in small businesses, that's much more challenging. And that's why I said, okay, we really need to be that holistic support that entrepreneurs need, and that's why I don't like to put
yeah,
us
yeah.
in those
Okay,
buckets.
got,
Because, like I said, sometimes you need this, sometimes you need that, and we are here to combine all of that and provide you with all of that. And yeah, that's why the journey is usually a bit longer.
yeah. It is, and it's really holistic support. And yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, so like in the podcast, initially we're in the awareness stage, inspiring more Filipino entrepreneurs. But now that I interviewed you, maybe let's let's take it a bit higher. Like maybe I'll also have other resources here aside from you, the fail coach, who can, like, after inspiration, after the motivation, how exactly now can Filipinos become entrepreneurs and really build their businesses? So I think that's also the next step for the podcast. And thank you so much, Miha, for also making me realize all of these things.
Well, and
So,
thank you for the invitation. I hope your audience will find something valuable in this
a
episode.
lot, a lot, for
That's all
sure.
I want to achieve. And like I said, if like trying to create some educational videos on YouTube. I might not be the best at it, but if you enjoyed my rambling right now, then you can see what I post on the YouTube channel. It's all for free, and it's not like, oh, I'll give you half and then you have to sign up for something or pay for something. I'm really just trying to see how much I can deliver in that way. And if you want to chat with me, then LinkedIn is definitely the best way to find me.
Yeah, so invite them if they want to connect with you as the fail coach. So do you have a website, social media channels? Yeah,
Well, yeah,
invite them.
I mean, they can easily just type fail coach in Google. We are still the only fail coach in the world, so they can go to website, to all our different channels. But if they want to chat with me and talk to me, the best way is connect with me on LinkedIn. Just mention, hey, I saw you on Johnny's podcast, and I'll know where you're coming from. Or if, like I said, if you want some advice that's hopefully usable, valuable for free, then I'm doing my best with the YouTube channel, and you can go check that out.
Yeah, so to our startup founder listeners or SME owners out there, so search the fail coach or Miha Matlievski. So thank you so much, Miha, for this conversation. It's a very long one, but it's a very good one. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you again for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our 45 patrons. This episode is super powered by AskLexPH Academy, our official e-learning partner. Get certifications on Lean Six Sigma, project management, data science, and more. ROC.ph, our creative marketing partner. Get unlimited digital marketing services monthly. 1CFO, CFO services, bookkeeping and tax, and payroll processing for startups and small businesses. Tuala, privacy-focused digital experience for sharing identity information across Web 2 and Web 3 ecosystems. And Space PH, global co-working space, private office, and meeting rooms for startups, digital nomads, and freelancers. Ignite Careers, career matching platform for Filipino talents and hiring companies in the outsourcing industry. Mamiki Super Pet App, the Philippines' first ever one-stop mobile app for pet products and services. Mata Technologies, Philippines' premier provider of virtual tours and maps for LGUs, real estate, tourism, and private businesses. MarketMind Local, a digital marketing company focused in helping small and medium businesses. Smile, consent-driven digital employment verification service to make smarter decisions faster. UBI Philippines, advocating universal basic income for Filipinos. BV Code Technologies, IT solutions specializing in software development, blockchain smart contracts, digital wallets, and cybersecurity. The Buzz Web3 microblogging app promoting freedom of speech and content ownership. Looking for buy and sell online with Sigurado sellers. NutriCoach, personalized nutrition and weight loss programs for you. Benjoy's food products, the home of premium bacon ends, tapa, and tocino. This episode is powered by Contact RFID business cards. Jur.ph, Big Giant Games, Founders Launchpad, Packetworx, Uplift Code Camp, Pareto Consulting, Agile Data Solutions, Hassle PH, Board Prep, Zayls, SeriousMD. Please support the podcast through the links in the description.